Hi, is it working? Yeah, fantastic. Hi, everyone. So my name is Henriette Cornet. I am the CEO and founder from Pulsur, which is an AI-driven tool to increase ridership of public transit. Why does it matter? Well, public transit faces serious challenges, especially in terms, and we have seen like really decrease of transit ridership. And one of the reasons for that is a difficulty for public transit to address trends and emotions that people have around travel in general. Oops, yeah. So the real problem, public transit is somehow stuck in the past. I've been working with public transit agencies over the past years and talking to my colleague there, I ask them, how do you actually talk to non-riders? To persons who are not taking public transit now, because public transit agencies are good at talking at their users, but what about all the other persons? The answer, they don't. So we have, because of that, we have a huge unserved majority of people, of residents of the city that are, you can see on the right side of this bar diagram, that are heavily reliant on their cars. They may be regular users or captive from their car, or they may be even like rejecting persons. They are rejecting transit per se. What we want to understand is what are the emotions of these people and how can we address them to bring them towards more use of transit usage. This work is what I've been doing in my PhD 12 years ago. It was very central, and it is still very central to Pulsur. So Pulsur, the solution, is a tool that give like AI-driven analytics view to attract new customers to public transit and boost ridership. It is local, so it is adapted to each city needs. It is real-time, meaning you don't have to wait the results of survey for a long time, or like consultancy reports that will take time to take. It's really real-time data that you get, and it is large scale. You can really scale and reach a lot of participants. How it looks like, it's a web-based dashboard, and if you are a public transit agent, for example, you will log in every day, and you will want to know how is my transit doing today. You will have the bubble on the left side. You recognize the colors are from these bar diagrams. The brown one will be the car captive, the car regular users, and you want to see these green bubbles growing as much as possible. On the other side, the so-called moodometer is to understand the emotions around transit, because we want people to have calm and positive emotion when they are using transit, but you also want to understand how non-transit are feeling. And then when I speak of feeling, the way we get the data is by using the buzz box here. When you click on it, you can see then, like it's one features of Pulsur is to scrap the web, reading social media posts, for example, Facebook, Reddit, etc., reading the web, reports that exist out there, newspaper articles are also very powerful to understand underlying barriers that people may have towards transit, and you get kind of a feeling of how people feel. And once you have that, most importantly, is to move to the action box. In the action box, you will see your priorities. So all the emotions that you have seen before and gathered from your people in the city will be translated into actionable solutions for your city. And you can see kind of a ranking, how long have these priorities being a priority. If one is stay on top too long, you really need to address this one. So our business model is, there is a base plan, which is basically what I just show you with the dashboard and basic analytics. But we have also pro plans. The advantage of the pro plan is really you can dig into the ridership forecasting. Based on the analysis that has been done, you can predict how people will change their behavior, and this will, of course, impact your revenue model, but also your impact, for example, on the environment. There is also in the Pro Plan a direct possibility to get feedback from the person who can log in, from the passengers or the resident of your city who can log in and did direct feedback to have a more direct engagement. We also do partnerships. If you are interested into that, let's discuss. Our market, we evaluate, so the field of AI for mobility and sustainable transport is a huge market, evaluated by like $100 billion. And we want to play a role in this market. We want to have an impact there. The competitors we have identified so far are the one dealing with transit data and AI are mostly around mapping and logistic and transit information. We haven't found competitors dealing really with new customer acquisition for public transit. So our competitive edge is to focus really on these real times that I mentioned, on emotion, so sentiment, to be tailored to each city that will use Pulsur and provide like a large-scale ridership boost. And our business have seen a nice traffic upscale from 380% since our launch. Our team is made of like experts from transport. Important to mention is my UX designer team, which are specialized actually, and one of them, the UX lead, is specialized in emotional design, which is exactly what we need. She works in the field of shared space and how to bring more emotion, positive emotion around shared space. We also have in the team a data scientist specialized really in large language model. And our CFO, my CFO and myself, we have experience in transportation engineering for a while, working in this area. So the vision of Pulsur is to be the top tool for sustainable transport in the coming year. And well, if you are interested, join us. Thank you.
Hello? Yeah. So we have time for 3 questions from our judges. Who would like to go first?
Thank you so much for the presentation. Quick question. If one of the data sources is scraping social media, it's my intuition that most postings on social media about transportation are largely negative. People don't necessarily post if they had a great ride that day. How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, that's a good point. What we saw with using Pulsur and scraping different social media around different cities, it really depends on the platform. There are some platforms, I will not name them, where people are mostly negative, and some platforms when you can see people experience positive experience and they want to share about them. So it's mixed. Since we want to see the barriers and the pain points, seeing a lot of like criticism, it's kind of helpful also to gather really and to make sense of these critiques into like these actions, these solutions that I mentioned. But there's not only negative posts out there. And we can use that as well, the positive experience that people have. And by the way, it's not only using public transport. So we're not looking only at people criticizing transit. If you have a positive experience while walking or cycling, this will also play a role in Pulsur and being elevated towards like solutions for transit.
In a quick follow-on, not a separate question, but if the data is, so the transit manager you're saying is checking this interface every day, and they want to see the bubbles move from the brown to the green, but the person who's checking this, are you imagining that they're C-suite, or they are working on more on the ground, like is it a decision maker that is actually trying to understand this data?
It really depends. So that's the flexibility of the tool. It can be on a high level, more on the C level. Definitely, it could be from the research and innovation team that they want to see if some innovations that they have put on the road to see does it have a positive effect? Are people talking about it? Could be for marketing purposes. Could be also used for reporting, because Public Transit Agency has a mandate to report on their performance. Pulsur is perfect for that because they will get all the data analyzed and being able to be transcribed easily.
Thank you so much. Curious how you recommend actions for more fluffy, emotional responses to the public transit solution, and have you considered expanding your services solution to offer like consulting services or marketing services or PR services for that?
Good question. So this will be very much the work that I have done in my PhD thesis, and also the work of my UX lead, what I mentioned. She's also has a PhD in this emotional design sphere. what we did there, and it was too long for this short pitch, when you have the category of the different person, like you have these regular users, the car captives, and et cetera, the granularity goes even further, that you analyze these personas, and based on these personas, you can see if people have rather a need for more infrastructure, rather a need for more digital solutions, etc. So we have kind of a portfolio of actions that is matched with these different personas. We know some categories, it's better to work on accessibility aspects, etc. So that's the way we do it. And the second question was to expand our...
Have you thought about monetizing like the solutions potentially?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it will work very much with these partnerships, because through the experience that we all have, when I mentioned this 50 years of experience in transportation, all together, we are really able, once we have identified solutions, to really reach out to our network and to really say, okay, there is something to be done. And as consultant, we can definitely like follow up with them. Okay.
And as a matter of fact, this is what transportation looks like in almost all of the world. It's in very many ways, if you talk about mass transit transport, it's an indecent mode of operation. If you compare that to the car, most people take public transport because they have to. And they are actually not liking the product, but they have to use it. And you might be even more surprised if you know what the cost of those systems are. Far and foremost, not for you, but for the transport agencies. It's not uncommon if you buy a ticket on a subway train that you cover only, let's say, 30% of the cost of your ride, while the 70% gap is financed by public subsidies. And the consequence is that cities, big cities, have a staggering budget to finance a system that actually no one likes. These numbers are real. So London pays about £10 billion every year just to run the London Tube. New York, as you see, $15 billion. And this comes at a time where most of the cities don't even have the money to spend on that anymore. So we as humanity, we build systems that no one likes, are kind of outdated, and are hugely expensive. This is why there is a need for something completely different, and this is what we do with Dromos. So we provide public transport services without the need for public subsidies at all. Imagine you think that to an end. What could a city like London do with £10 billion if they don't have to spend it on public transport? And because whether you like it or not, the car is the benchmark, we go with a claim saying you provide the quality of a taxi ride for the price of a bus ticket. And this is what we do with Dromos. We do that for, passenger and freight, of course, because it doesn't make any sense to build passenger systems only. And we are a strong believer on autonomous driving, so technology can make a difference, of course, but we're also a strong believer in terms of customer service. And if you go for smaller vehicles, there's no way of doing this in a ride-sharing fashion. Imagining you're traveling in the night in a driverless small vehicle, and then the door opens and a complete stranger walks in, that's a no-go. Therefore, we need to provide the same quality as in a taxi ride. You decide whether you want to share it, and if you don't want to share, there's no need of forcing you to do that. Of course, we're in the 21st century, so we're talking about sustainability. We are carbon neutral, of course, but we're also neutral in terms of microparticles. So the vehicle tires we use are made of dandelion sap. So the tire abrasion is actually biodegradable. That's actually available technology, and you can use that right away. And we go even further in including not only the vehicle, but also the infrastructure. Because most people think you go electric and then you're sustainable. You forget that streets are built of concrete and asphalt. That's the #1 source of CO2 emission. So the infrastructure we use is actually made of wood. And again, this is an innovation from the 21st century. You can use that right now, and it has the same duration and lifetime as a concrete structure. Much cheaper, much more sustainable, and frankly speaking, much more pleasing to the eye. We are extremely successful now in the UK, and we've got a couple of cities under contract. And some of the city names are placed here, like Cambridge, Manchester, Newcastle, Birmingham. And we are rapidly expanding our reach within the UK, and now also we are trying to get into the US market. This is part of the reason of us being here. And you might be surprised if you look at the number of opportunities there are in a global world. We typically respond to tendered opportunities, and for systems of that kind, actually there are more than 1,000 tenders active as we speak. So there's huge opportunities to actually bring public transport to a completely new level. If you want to understand more, feel free to reach out to me and, oops, yeah, we're here. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah, thanks so much for the presentation. I'm curious, what is the new model for y'all?
The new business model or the new technology model?
I guess where are the cost savings coming from in the operational
Okay.
model, and then how are you driving the revenue?
So I don't want to go into too much tech, but as a matter of fact, we're taking advantage of a regulatory scheme which is not based on road autonomous driving, but on rail autonomous driving. In rail, autonomous driving is an old-fashioned thing. There are trains that ride on autonomous levels for 3 decades. So in taking advantage of that scheme, you can scale down the vehicle complexity dramatically. To give you an idea, one of the beep vehicles is an order of magnitude more expensive than a vehicle of ours. And we amend the vehicle technology by infrastructure sensoring and roadside units, which is far cheaper and more effective.
Great, and then are you selling the vehicles, are you selling the service?
Actually, we sell everything. So a typical contract that we do is we provide the infrastructure. We've got a supplier from Switzerland doing the wood-based infrastructure. We've got a company called Magna. They provide the vehicle from us in the thousands. And basically, we do the integration of all of it, but we sell a complete system. And we even have operators on board if you are, as a municipality, seeking someone to operate the system in the long run.
Great, thank you.
Hey, thanks so much. So for the competitive projects that you listed are currently in play, obviously you have a lot of activity in England and the UK. What is a competitive project? Is it a fully deployed system, and on what scale?
Okay, so we are now building the first system in the UK physically, and you can have a ride on one of the vehicles as early as next year. And our competitive advantage is actually to pitch against classical solutions that are typically rail-based or street cars or whatever. And we go into a classical tendered opportunities, and because we're so much cheaper and more effective and much faster, we basically kick out competition easily. We pitched for 5 tenders in the UK and won them hands down.
So to be clear, when you say you've pitched and won the tenders, what have the tenders afforded you?
So the tender, for example, for Birmingham was they want to build a mobility system from the city to the airport, high capacity, 15 kilometers, in that case, segregated infrastructure. And we basically took that tender and responded like the Siemenses and the Bombardiers and the General Electric of this world, and we basically kicked them out of the market.
So you won the tender for the pathway between the airport in Birmingham to the city center?
Yeah.
Great. What is the scale of that? When is that going to be online?
Okay, so we are planning to go live for the full system, ready for the ITS World Congress in Birmingham for 2027. And the scale would be 450 vehicles, 15 kilometers, and about 16,000 passengers on a day.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
How do you think of, or how do you think about other grades of competition in a similar format, right? At grade or below grade in your cost advantage?
Okay, so we typically think if you want to go into the market of autonomous driving, there is the deep pocket approach, which is what Waymo does. They invest billions and billions into coming up with a vehicle which is capable of running on a public street. For us, that would be an impossible option. So we actually took an easier path going forward where you compete against rail. Yeah, and your competitive edge is not technology, but it's the business case. So we took that road, and we start with simpler business cases, and once technology evolves, you can open up the market and then pick up people, for example, from home. But it's a gradual involvement, and you don't invest into something that is kind of only valid for the next 2 years, because systems of that kind, they have a lifetime of 30 years or even 50 years.
Thank you.
All right. I am Kimberly Moore, and I'm CEO and co-founder of Go Together. Think mobility as a service for K-12, for students and their families. We believe that when every student, every day, gets to school safely, everybody succeeds. We remove the barrier of transportation for students so they can attend the school of their choice and really become the people that they were created to be. Our vision is to build the future of student mobility that is smarter, greener, and more connected. So at Go Together, our mobility as a service platform is sold to school districts on an annual subscription plus an implementation fee, and it provides multi-modes of transportation for schools. Now, I just want to take a poll of the audience. How many of you have children? Raise your hand. How many of them take the bus? Okay. And how many people drive their kids to school? All right. Anybody take the rail or walk or bike? Okay. So I'm in the right room. And the reason why not that many hands were raised when I asked the question about students taking the bus is because there's a national school bus driver shortage. And over 80% of districts report that it's so serious that they're having to do things like change bell schedules, collapse routes, have students ride with middle schoolers, high schoolers, transition high schoolers off of school buses so they can take public transit just to increase capacity. Now, what this has done is create a $4.8 billion market opportunity for us. And what we have learned is that the pathway for us to scale is through our partners, starting with school districts, but also with many of you here in the room who represent public agencies, nonprofits, or people who help deploy transportation options. More importantly, there's $2.7 billion in Safe Streets for All funding that we can use to help pay for our platform. So how does it work? The school or the district will vet the parent through a background screening process. Once that's completed, the parent will log on to the platform, and using our AI-powered matching process, they can find parents who live or families that live nearby them in seconds. They'll then create their trips and then, of course, share their trips with the families who are in that particular trip, allowing them to see their child arrived at school or at home safely. My real reason for being here, whoa. What happened? Stop the timer. It's working on its own. So my real reason for being here today is to talk about this power of partnerships. Obviously, school districts like Framingham Public Schools is a partner, but also Ride Amigos, who works with MPOs to provide data analytics and incentives for those users who are carpooling, vanpooling from employer base in those cities. Our current partner, Movability, is one that we're most excited about because with them, we have launched School Pool, and what we're doing is helping them reduce traffic congestion and carbon emissions around schools. Why? Because there's 35 construction projects that are happening over the next 7 to 10 years that are going to cause an enormous amount of traffic congestion. So by reducing the number of parents' frustration and also trips on campus, we're promoting carpooling at least twice a week to reduce carbon emissions by 10%. So we're currently in 8 schools in Austin Independent School District and Hayes Independent School District. And ultimately, we're also going to be working with a particle collector to help us really gauge how much carbon emission is being reduced over time and to create safer school traffic lanes on campus by having an express lane just for Go Together customers. Now, this is where you come in. We would love to partner with you, collaborate with you, and more importantly, help move forward policies that help promote mobility as a service for K-12. You could also partner with us to get funding so that schools and districts in your area would be able to take full advantage of mobility as a service, as a platform. And then lastly, of course, I've got a PDF on my phone that you can take and look at what the policies are that need to be changed in order for mobility as a service to become a reality for kids and families across the country. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share this with you. If you want to meet with me, click on that QR code and let's set up a time to talk. Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. Are
You're welcome.
you a for-profit or a nonprofit?
For-profit.
Entity? For-profit. Can you elaborate a little bit on the business model?
Sure can. It's an annual subscription, whether it's a private school or a public school. It's an annual subscription based on enrollment. For a school district, it also is an annual subscription per user, plus an implementation fee, background screen fee, and integration fees to their student information system.
So your customer is the school district
Or a
okay.
school.
Or a school. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss it. So the vehicles are provided by whom?
The parents.
The parents.
It's parents building community so they can help each other get their kids to school.
So it's a parent vehicle and a parent driver or a school
parent,
supply driver?
Parent vehicle, parent driver.
Okay, so an app that basically does the pairing, the school pays for the infrastructure to help
Yeah.
pull that together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Related question: how do you deal with like parent capacity and times of the year that parents might not be able to drive that are otherwise really dependable for that carpool?
Yeah, so parents can organize trips, single trips, regularly scheduled trips, seasonal trips. And so only those people who want to participate are onboarded onto the platform. So we're not necessarily seeing a lack of capacity for providing trips. Sometimes we do have more, in some seasons, more families who need trips than those who can provide them, but it kind of evens itself out by the end of the semester.
And I'm sorry, maybe I missed this. Are the parents compensated, or is this more?
No, they're
Okay.
not compensated. It's a volunteer activity, and we make it very clear in our terms of service that they are volunteering.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Would you be providing incentives for parents driving near zero emission vehicles?
So we actually are launching a new incentive program next month that will incentivize the students as well as their parents. So for students, every parent in here knows that if your kid says, hey, I want Bobby to ride with me, you're likely going to say yes. And so we're providing incentives for students to do that. And then secondarily, for those people who are driving electric vehicles or so forth, we're providing tokens for them through our partner, Movability, not Go Together directly. Any other questions? No, that's it. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Henriette. Thank you, Martin, for your presentations. Really interesting things to think about. Thank you to our judges. This concludes the first half of the New Mobility Challenge pitches. We will see you tomorrow.